What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I have another awesome virtual tabletop platform to show you that is live on Kickstarter as of me recording this. It is the final crunch time in the last 26 hours of the Kickstarter being live, but a lot of headway can be made in there, especially if some of the folks from the Nerd Immersion community decide, hey, you want to check it out. So this is Constructo Dungeons Builder. Now, I'm going to go through and talk about what makes it unique, because there is a lot of interesting stuff that I haven't seen before, and even cross-platform play with things like VR, which is pretty cool. So why don't we go ahead and just dive in, but I will say thank you to Constructo for sponsoring this video. So again, like I said, 785 backers, 26 hours to go. You can see they've more than doubled their initial funding goal, and they're getting into, actually is a stretch goal that will get unlocked if they hit 80K, so they're right about there, just a couple more, backers, and they'll be able to break through that. But Constructo has everything you would probably come to expect from a virtual tabletop at this point. I'm going to go ahead and let this play in the background, just to kind of show stuff off. It has, again, simple drag and drop options where you can go ahead and add columns and walls and doors, add dynamic lighting effects that actually do impact the room from these things. You can see torches, candelabras. You can add things like traps, other kinds of set dressing, drag, drop, adjust, move, rescale, resize, or just flat out delete. You can see from the scaler they're doing right here, you can do time of day to adjust where shadows and things may, be set in your different rooms. If we were to skip ahead, you can also see you can do outdoor things like building terrain outside of your dungeon, raise and lower the ground level. Then you can also paint that with the paint tool, as you can see here, to kind of add grass or different effects to it. You also have dynamic weather effects. As you can see, we're also adding in grass and trees here. I think we'll see rain here, or raising the water level. You could make a whole underwater dungeon if you wanted. But we'll see, I think we'll see some rain here. We'll also see snow. And then again, because of how much you're able to do with the outdoor aspects of it, you can also do things like basically make a lava scape, as you can see here, which I think just looks absolutely fantastic. It also has the ability to, if you need to kind of drag and drop, this is something I really like. You can see here some outdoor, if you wanted to build an outdoor scape, like a town or a village. But one of the things I really like is what you see here, which is their randomized creator, where they basically just say, hey, I need a room, and they click and drag the size they want the room to be, and then the system's AI automatically populates that room with everything inside. And then you can obviously go and, as you see here, and customize, drag, drop, remove things. And this is also showcasing their marketplace, where folks can upload their own creation, as if you want to go ahead and say, hey, I don't have time. I want to find something that's been highly rated that folks say is really good, and I'll grab this, and whether it be a dungeon, an outdoor scape that has, a vast area for me to, overland terrain, or just a tavern or what have you. As I said, one of the other things that's nice is that you can just drag and drop things and say, hey, give me a room. And this is what they're talking about right here, is that it actually can be used as a virtual tabletop at your physical table, but it also has connections where people can log into it remotely, so you don't all have to be at the same physical table if you don't want to be able to utilize it. You can also see something with the character creation here in the background. You can add animations, various different styles of animations, idle animations, attack animations, to things that you create. It also has Hero Forge integration, so you can link your Hero Forge account to it to import your Hero Forge minis. You kind of saw there's a little bit of POV action where you can actually go into basically the view side of your character to witness these things. Again, you can see dynamic lighting, light sources, torches. There's dark vision in play here, showcasing what it would look like. Again, your character having only the black and white dark vision. Fog of War as well, so you're not seeing things before your character is able to see them, so you don't spoil the surprise. You can maybe trigger traps by accident. Again, here's the first-person view showcasing things. It also has some really cool things you could do with like spell animations and things, where you can basically, like here, they're going to show, here's just VR, by the way, where you can obviously not only play the game in VR, but you can also build your maps in VR if you so choose. But as you can see here, there are some different effects. Like here's a fireball effect going off, right? So you'll see it explode, but you can also see it from the perspective of the character with the big kind of flash fire explosion. Obviously, it's a virtual tabletop as well, so you can set up all sorts of specific rules to roll dice, how you want them to calculate and adjust, and accordingly, you see them attacking one another. Do you want to roll with advantage? Speaking of that, it does have the 5th edition rule set built into it, so you'll have that kind of from the get-go, but there's a plan to potentially add more in the future. If we were to scroll down, we'll be able to see a little bit more. Again, here's a great example of an outdoor kind of overlandscape. Again, this is just a quick video that shows sort of real-time building. Again, this is basically you have a room. Let's go ahead and add in a door, and you can see the counter in the corner showing how fast it is to take and do this in a real-time scenario, whereas previously what we had saw was kind of sped up for the purposes of getting through the video. But this is very easy to customize. Again, especially if you wanted to do, which I am still will continue to say that I'm a huge fan of, hey, let the AI say, hey, give me a room this big and have it be a tavern, and then it basically just populates everything for you. Here's again some more of showing the overland terrain, raising and lowering the water levels. We talked about the marketplace. Here's a little bit more about the minis. Again, there's a ton of different options here and the Hero Forge integration. You also can add music and sound effects in here, whether you want to have a door opening effect whenever your characters go through a door, or maybe a trap trigger sound effect, or just ambient music. Again, we have a variety of different options here for building characters and minis, as we talked about also with the animations, things we saw in the previous video. Here you can see a little bit of the VR action where you can actually, again, build the terrain in VR. So that's something that's pretty cool, as it does work with PC, laptop. It also will work with your cell phone, again, or VR, and you can build in any one of those mediums or switch back and forth based on what you want, but you can also play in any of those mediums. So if you have a friend who loves VR, they can play in VR while you're playing just sitting at your laptop or your desktop. There's also these cool things which I really like, which you can kind of add, your PC set on fire or petrified, add different effects to the different tokens in the world. We mentioned Hero Forge. Also, one of the things I like is it does say if you link your Hero Forge account to Constructo, you'll basically get a pack of 5 miniatures for free. You can see the miniatures here, so you can go ahead and do that. I think you could probably do that. I don't know if Constructo needs to be out or you can link it now, but either way, 5 free minis. Again, I don't know if that's printed that you get sent to you or you'll have to print them via STL yourself. But okay, rule sets, right? So we talked about how it does have the 5th edition rule set. That'll kind of be in there. It'll be the open game license 5e rule set will be in there from the get-go. So you've got that for you. But the plan is to potentially add compatibility with other rule sets as time goes on. Let's see, we talked about, again, creating your own dice. Here you can see the movement tracker kind of snapping back to how far you're moving. Same thing with what we see here with the fireball going off, which has a beautiful little effect to showcase that. I don't know if you're able to set monster HP to be able to also set the damage, but I just love the visual of that. Also, it won't necessarily only be fantasy. You can obviously see there's some sort of sci-fi setup right here. Here's the mention I told you about cross-platform, VR or AR headsets, PC, tablet, phone. Any of them can all link together, so that's awesome. And then there is sort of 2 tiers, if you will, right? You have Citizen and Hero is what the tiers they're calling it. So citizens will be able to use the software for free. So you can, if you choose not to back the product, or the project, but you still like the concept of this, you can sign up as a citizen and basically get access to things for free. So it says you'll have access to all the features with the exceptions of those contained in the House of Heroes, which we'll get to in a sec. For example, ordinary citizens will be able to save all the data to your physical device. Which, again, if you're not planning on changing devices anytime soon, that might be useful to you, while heroes can use the cloud. So they'll be able to access it from anywhere. All the materials published by Playloop Studios present in the marketplace will be available to heroes for free, while citizens will have to purchase it. So Playloop Studios being the group behind it, anything that they put out content packs for free, paying as a hero, you'll be able to get access to that for free, whereas, again, a citizen with a free membership will have to buy and pick and choose what they want. Let's see, they'll have access to special features and accessible to others. All DMs that decide to enter the hero's house will be able to share their special features with the players who participate in their game. So only one person really needs to buy the hero membership, and then they can share that with them. It's going to be, access to the house after the Kickstarter will be $10 a month. So it's actually not too bad compared to what you see with a lot of other virtual tabletops. that have access to things that, different scalable size of what you can upload, what you can have, marketplace access. It says, so if you enter the hero's house, you get the following. Automation says, so from now on, that trap will snap after using that particular gear and you won't have to do anything. The software will do it for you. So basically, we're having things make things a little bit easier for us on the DM side. Material published again by Playlab Studios will be free. We also have access to the community adventure, which there is a whole adventure designed to this, and the 5e rule set. Be able to save in the cloud, early access to all future releases. You'll be able to theme and adjust your UI for your game to make it whatever kind of themes they have available. No limit to the number of maps and characters that can be saved. You'll get a little badge within the marketplace to denote that you were someone who is a hero there. And then again, choose your character's animations from a predefined set and associate them with the various actions available. So ordinary citizens, on the other hand, will have to assume the idle pose. So you'll be stuck in an idle position if you're choosing the free set, whereas a hero who's paying the $10 a month can have those sort of cool idle animations. Also, there was this community adventure I mentioned, right? Constructo community is working hard to create a custom adventure, which will be supported by the Playloop Studios team in creating all the necessary maps. With this adventure, you'll be able to discover the potential of Constructo Dungeon Builders. The adventure is free for all who enter the House of Heroes, and you can see it right here in process. A mysterious blight, strangers moving in secret, a town in peril. The pioneer town of Moontree lies in the jungle forest beyond the Endworld Mountains, cut off from the rest of the world beyond. But now the threat of an unknown danger has caused them to call out for help from beyond the mountains, essentially where your characters would be. So, pledge levels. Let's talk about that as well, because we need to figure out what is going to get us the access to the things we want, and then also we'll talk about delivery timeframes. So, this is all euros, so it's about 1-to-1 with US dollars or so. I think it's euros. Maybe I'm misinterpreting. Either way. So at the base level, right, you have a donate if you want to just donate to support the cost, but at around $34, $35 US, you get the Cobalt tier, which you can see here, which will get you 1 year access to the House of Heroes, which is again the premium version. So you get that as opposed to paying $10 a month, you're getting a whole year for $35. That's a pretty good deal. You also get all of the stretch goals that are unlocked during the campaign, which we'll get to as we scroll down. Again, estimated delivery for that is May of next year. At the Mimic pledge level, which is $50, you get everything we just talked about, plus access to the beta program, Discord channels dedicated to the beta users within the Playloop Studios Constructo Discord, a digital dice set, and then all stretch goals as well. If you jump, there were early birds. We're obviously past the early bird time frame because we're towards the end of it here. At the Gargoyle tier for about $70, everything we just talked about, plus the unique assets that are available to the folks who back on Kickstarter. And then again, stretch goals. At $95 is the Doppelganger tier. Everything we just talked about. You'll get access to the alpha, so even earlier access to the tools to play around with it. And then again, access to the alpha Discord channel. At $120 or so at the Ghost tier, you'll get everything we just talked about plus 2 years membership. And that, honestly, I mean, at $120, that's basically what you're going to be paying for a 1-year membership after the Kickstarter is complete. So you'll be getting 2 years essentially for the price of 1, plus everything we already discussed. Now, it does say that one, for some reason, also the alpha is November of this year. So the beta is set up for March of next year. But if you happen to get into the alpha tier, so that's the Doppelganger tier and above, the estimated delivery date is this November, so just a little over a month from now. So you'll be able to get in and play around relatively soon. The Chain Devil, which comes in at $150, gets you lifetime access to the House of Heroes. That actually may be better because it's slightly more than the cost of 1 year in production. You have it in perpetuity, which is actually probably a pretty good deal, and I would say probably what I'm going to end up backing at. Especially if you could have gotten the early access where it was $130, that would have been even better. All right, the Glabrazu level, which is the $250 level, everything we just talked about, a set of physical dice, as well as a Playloop Studios t-shirt. At the $339 tier, which is the $350 tier, so the Storm Giant tier, you'll also get a special thanks within Constructo itself. Right, a bolt of lightning will impress your name on Constructo indelibility. Special thank in a section of the Constructo and plus all the previous rewards. At the Baylor tier, which is the $500 tier, everything we just talked about, plus your miniature with a custom face on it within Constructo. So you'll have, like you saw the preset options, there'll be a mini with your face on it, which is pretty cool. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. But it gets crazier, right? So the Kraken tier, which is the $1,500 tier, it says you basically will get a custom animation, right? So it says custom animation set with motion capture. So I don't know if they're hooking you up with how the motion capture is going to work, but essentially a custom animation set. Move the tentacles and use the ink to draw custom animations all for you. So basically you're going to get a whole custom animation. I don't know if that's specific to you, if you were the person who maps out the animation set, but that's crazy. At the $3,500 tier, now this one is also wild. It's a custom table, right? So this is the Red Dragon tier. Everything we just talked about, plus a Constructo themed table. And you can see it here. It's basically like a hexagonal table that is specifically designed for you to play games at, with a whole section to lock in or dock a tablet to play Constructo, which is pretty wild. And then again, if you happen to go for the Tarrasque tier at the $5,000 tier, you get everything we just talked about, and you get to go meet the team in Rome, which is just wild. Right, so it says climb on the back of a Tarrasque and be transported to Europe to the Eternal City, being Rome. Then stop at the inn with the team members for a dinner of troll meat and beer. And then again, obviously, there's all the things that have been missed. And here's a little GIF of the table, which is wild. And also, I kind of really like the design of it. It's very sleek. Looks like it might even have a drawer in the table there, right here, which is pretty cool. And let's talk about stretch goals. So if they happen to get 100 retweets, it will add a Playloop Studios digital dice into the game that is currently locked. They cracked the $50,000 tier, which gets the dynamic weather. It says the time of day will advance automatically, or you can make it follow real time. Activate dynamic weather conditions and let the software do the work for you. A moment before it was autumn, a moment later our heroes find themselves in the dead of winter. So I like that you can actually choose it to mimic real world weather or real world time of day. So if you're playing in the game, it'll just adjust accordingly. At the $60,000 tier, which was also achieved, a collection of jungle-themed assets were added. At the $70,000 tier, they added special effects to the dice. It says your dice will glow in the dark, leave a colorful trail as they pass, or react dynamically to every bounce. So we have cool, unique, custom dice. The $80,000 tier, which is, again, only a couple $100 away, is Sound 2.0, right? Import your audio files into Constructo and use them as ambient sounds and mix them as you wish. The $95,000 tier adds the sci-fi setting. I'm sure some of these will be added much later on, but if they were to get the initial funding, that'll force them into the product much earlier. At the $110,000 tier, it'll have the advanced status indicators. $130,000, they'll actually add cutscenes, which is wild. I don't even know how that would work. On the next critical hit, see the scene from a never-before-seen perspective. The camera will follow your magical dart or magical sword for a cinematic effect in total autonomy. That sounds amazing to have like a special critical hit animation. These are the kind of things that I think definitely set them aside from other virtual tabletops on the market. And then we had automations, right? Again, adding trigger and traps, that's at 150K. 170K, it says mole system, pierce the ground. So you're getting full-blown underground taverns and tunnels. So you can basically have your upper level and then add a whole subterranean level if you wanted. 190K will add customizable rule sets. Basically, you build your own rule sets within the system of the game, which is wild that you could just have that kind of free range to come up with that stuff. 210 will have a whole random map generator. So we talked about random room generators earlier on that will use the AI to like you can drag and say, hey, here's a room, fill it with stuff. This would be a whole map generator. Say, hey, I need a dungeon, and it just generates you a whole dungeon. And then again, perhaps if things go beyond that, an even greater stretch goal. And then here's a little bit about the timeline, right? Conceptualized in 2016, development plans started end of last year. Kickstarter, we are here currently. The alpha launch will be November, as I stated. The beta launch in Q1 of 2023. And then again, eventual final Constructo release. So, but yeah, I here's again some more of the concept. I also like that they include the concept art of things like the table and the maps and whatnot. Here's a little bit more about the team. But yeah, I gotta say, I really like a lot of the stuff. I like the design. It gave me a lot of almost like the character and the animations kind of gave me like a World of Warcraft vanilla vibe to the style of the animation. which is pretty cool. And I like a lot of the things that they're doing. I mean, I'm not personally a big fan of VR myself, but I know a lot of people are. And to be able to not only play the game in VR, but also to be able to click and drag and build things in VR, I think would be a really cool concept for a lot of folks. The fact that, like I said, it does work cross-platform. The fact that it will basically be completely free to folks if you choose you don't want to continue to subscribe to the the hero tier after the Kickstarter launches or after the initial access to it. But also the fact that at like $150 you can get full lifetime access to this thing forever is pretty awesome. So there will be a link in the video description right at the top for Constructo's Kickstarter. It'll also be a pinned comment. So yeah, go ahead, check it out. There is a lot of information that I kind of skipped over that was in the videos that will go into greater detail showcasing the different aspects to it. But like I said, it's already been backed. It's going to happen. If you happen to back at a high enough level, you'll have alpha access next month, which is pretty wild to think about. So yeah, I really like what they're doing. I like the team seems really passionate about it. That was all of them acting and voice acting for all of the stuff you saw at the beginning with the sort of the players playing at the table. Um, so they're clearly a group that is very passionate about RPGs and what they can do to innovate in the TTRPG space. So plus, if you feel like donating $5,000, you can get a trip to Rome to go meet him. So there you go. So anyway, folks, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and I will see you all next time.